For the sixth spot out west, the eighth-seeded Clippers that wheeled off 4 straight wins, just a game back from that sixth spot, which means avoiding the play-in tournament altogether. However, you still have the seventh-seeded Timberwolves, sixth-seeded Warriors ahead of them.
We're hoping. The Warriors, again, like we mentioned, got off the mat after that, some would say embarrassing loss the night before at home to the Nuggets, who were without everybody. Hoops analyst Monica McNutt joining the program now to break it down. And honestly, Monica, just how important was this win last night the Warriors got without Steph Curry?
Well, Strike, you guys just took a look at the standings. So that being thing one about this win in terms of them holding on to their position and avoiding the play-in tournament. The second part, though, I think it's a big deal in terms of this team continuing to garner confidence. You obviously look at Jimmy Butler, who since the trade, they've been fantastic. They've won 15 games. I believe that record is still 15-2. And then last night, you get Jonathan Kuminga as well, who's working himself back into the lineup, coming back from that injury. And so I think that this is a solid win from the Warriors as far as confidence goes. Early in the season, prior to the trade, I had a handful of their games, and the consensus was to get the guys around Steph and Draymond to play with the confidence and force that they opened up the season with. And last night was a demonstration of that for sure.
They're doing just that and confirmed 15-2. Golden State is with Jimmy Butler in that lineup tonight, Monica, on ESPN. It is a heavyweight matchup. You got the Nuggets taking on the Lakers. What have you seen from Denver? And this is an interesting question because Nikola Jokic is playing the best basketball of his career right now. But what have you seen from them that might cause them to slip up seating-wise, position-wise out west?
So it seems, Streisky, that every now and then they sort of lose focus.
Okay.
And that's just kind of as a collective. To me, I find them to be a little bit flat and puzzling at points. Now, I am saying that and totally acknowledging, as you pointed out, their centerpiece in Nikola Jokic, a guy that's averaging a triple-double. And the core of this group still has championship DNA. But every now and again, if a team is really aggressive with them, if they really figure out how to make Jokic one-dimensional as far as either a scorer or just a passer, you will kind of see them sort of succumb. Now, as they move forward the rest of the season, though, I fully expect Jokic to maybe send a group text. That was a thing a couple of years ago, right? And they will step up their level of focus. I think Coach Michael Malone does a great job of figuring out how to get his vets going. You look at what Russell Westbrook was able to do the other night when they had a bunch of guys resting, and then you've got those young pieces in Brown and Watson and all those guys that are really willing to work as the young guys on the wing. So I think they're going to be okay. I still think they're one of the bigger threats coming out of the West outside of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
We're going to find out soon enough if they're locked in for tonight's matchup, 10 o'clock Eastern, right here.
We'll see his good team.
Hence playoff Jimmy.
So that works for the Golden State Warriors.
Yes, it does.
Hence playoff Jimmy. And when you have Steph Curry, you're guaranteed to be in the playoffs, basically. When you're the best player and you take the regular season and you don't care about the bad teams and there's nobody nearly as good as you, you may not get in the playoffs, so you may end up in the play-in. Again, hypothetically, for the last 6 years. Anyway, so we saw Steph not play last night. A couple of nights ago, we saw the Denver Nuggets not play their 2 stars in Nikola Jokic and, of course, Jamal Murray. And Tim Bontemps, ESPN NBA reporter, Hoop Collective podcast, was on with us yesterday and had this to say about the Nuggets.
You can't sit out this game. You just can't. You have a day off before and after the game. You have national TV games on Monday and Wednesday on the road against the Warriors and Lakers. I was really fired up to watch this game last night to see how Golden State would handle them. Yeah, Golden State lost this game, but you're playing a team that's missing all their guys. You could sort of turn off. But the whole point of the player participation policy was to have guys playing in these kind of games. And there's just a huge letdown for all these guys to sit. I was at the Knicks game last night, and Cassie Hubbard texted me and said, "You see who the Nuggets are playing?" I was like, "What do you mean? I think everybody's playing." Then she sent me the injury report, and Jamal, Christian Brown, and Jokic are all sitting out. It was just a terrible look for the league.
So is this now an issue again, or are these examples of really good teams having the right to sit out guys here?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. They are thinking of the bigger picture, and they have the right to sit out those guys when they think that they need a spell, and I understand that. But we continuously have this conversation about the NBA and about load management and about stars playing consistently. It's a conversation that persists.
No doubt.
And when you have this type of a matchup, and the reason why you're so intrigued by this matchup is to see these 2 stars and these 2 teams go against one another, and then one team elects to sit those guys, that is problematic for the viewer. And so I don't think it's a situation that's overblown because it's something that continues to happen.
Yeah, but I guess you got to weigh the here and now and being able to put the best product on the court for a primetime game versus the ultimate goal, which is trying to win a championship. And I understand completely why the Denver Nuggets a couple of nights ago sat Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, right? The usage for those two guys on the Denver Nuggets is different than the rest of the lineup.
Yeah.
Same thing with Steph Curry last night sitting against the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, it didn't bite the Golden State Warriors because Jimmy Butler played so well and their bench outscored Milwaukee's bench 39-13. But I understand why you want to pace your stars. Steph Curry is 37 years old. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be able to give it to you every single night in terms of what he did a decade ago when the Golden State Warriors dynasty was rolling. So I understand how they're approaching this, and I don't have an issue with it. But I fully expect that that's going to lead to a more compelling product once we get into the postseason. And I think as long as the NBA gets the carrot with these guys sitting out certain games throughout the regular season, I think everybody will say that that's worth it.
It really is amazing in sports. We talk about tanking. We talk about the load management. There's so many more examples of good teams tanking than bad teams tanking. If you actually think about it, everyone goes to the bad teams tanking. The good teams, think about week 17 or 18 now in the NFL. Think about how many good teams don't care if they win. The definition of the tank is to not care as much about now as you do about later.
Yeah, it was a real problem, which is why the league made the move to make all Week 18 games divisional games.
Yeah.
To make them mean something or give it the opportunity to mean something versus what it was before that. So, and it's gotten better, but it's still bad.
Correct. Like, did the Kansas City Chiefs care in Week 18 if they won?
No. And that allowed the Denver Broncos to get into the playoffs.
So what is that technically? That's technically tanking a game, is it not?
I don't know if it's tanking a game. They were the number one seed in their respective conference.
I understand, but they didn't care about Week 18, so they can care about the playoffs.
Yeah, but when you say tank, there's an incentive for the team, and it's. I guess the incentive would be the rest is what you're talking about. But to me, if you're saying the Kansas City Chiefs tanked Week 18, I would think the incentive would be, they don't want the Cincinnati Bengals to be in the playoffs.
Oh,
so we're going to tank.
We're not going to do that,
We're going to tank just to make sure that the Bengals don't get in the playoffs.
That's the motive.
See, when it's just for rest's sake, I don't consider that tanking. Like it's rest to set ourselves up to try to win a championship. It wasn't tanking for the Philadelphia Eagles not to go after the rushing record in Week 18 with Saquon Barkley. They were setting themselves up to try to win a championship.
Absolutely.
And that's why I say as long as the NBA gets the carrot, which is these premier players preserving themselves in the regular season so they can go on deep playoff runs, as long as the NBA gets that, we're cool.
Yeah.
But if the Golden State Warriors get into the first round of the playoffs and get knocked out by, whoever it is, the Lakers, Memphis, Houston, one of those teams, then all of a sudden we're going to have an issue with how they handle Steph Curry down the stretch.
For sure.
Same thing with the Denver Nuggets. As long as we get the payoff, as long as we get the stars competing in the deeper rounds of the postseason, I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with them load managing throughout the final stretch of the regular season.
And I know there's a disparity with the volume of games in each league, obviously, but with the NFL, when we talk about Week 18, that's 1 week that various teams will do that. And I think that makes it more palatable for the consumer. Whereas in the NBA, this is stuff that's sprinkled throughout the season and throughout various points in the season with different teams and different stars, which I think is why the conversation persists and why it's a bigger problem.
It stinks when it happens. I'm not going to argue that, right? I don't think it happens as much as maybe we talk about it, the possibility of it happening. I also think it's case circumstance. Like each case has its own circumstance. Like, when you graduate to the level of the Oklahoma City Thunder and you're 56-12 and you want to rest Shea, you only have the ability to do that because he played so many games to get you to 56-12. Like, I can just tell you from my team in Miami, the reason they got frustrated with Jimmy Butler is they were in the play-in every year, if that, and he was taking games off, and they're like, we're not that good.
Well, no, we're going to be fine because I'm going to take you to the conference finals or better.
Yeah.
I understand.
So
but
y'all have a nice cup of shut the hell up.
Yeah.
But
play in or not, it don't matter.
But they didn't win.
Playoff Jimmy is going to get you to the Final Four.
Win it all,
You
though.
just get in your seat.
Okay, they didn't win it all, but they were in like the Final Four. What?
I get it. I get it.
3 of 5 years?
What
I'm saying-
3 times out of 5 years?
What I'm saying is Steph Curry and Jokic have graduated to the place of they played enough to get them high enough